Hey everybody, who here would like to know God's will for their lives? Me. It is such a tantalizing question to ask, what is God's will for my life? And you probably have some very specific areas of ambiguity in your life, some gray areas, some unknowns in your future that you would really love to have a crystal ball kind of concept play out, where God will Shazam you with the secret knowledge of your future. Well, more on that in just a moment. Before I keep talking about this topic for today, I want to point out that this is, I think, our 5th installment in our video series that we're sending out into our chat rooms to create conversations of faith. This pandemic has been difficult for gathering together, and we're using the best that we have. It's not what everybody wants, of course. We extroverts want to get together, we want to hug and greet and meet and do all that, but we can't do it as well as we used to for now. So we have employed technology, and that's what this is about, getting some times together through video to talk about faith. I released this little snippet of teaching, and then ideally you're interacting with each other over the questions in your home unit and through our app, along with fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who are in your high school or your middle school or the fellowship lounge or whichever of the rooms you prefer to go to, the family room, etc. And I hope you're interacting. I hope you're doing more than just taking it in. I hope you're sharing what you're getting with each other, because God uses us to teach one another, as we're learning in the Who Cares series. I'm going to go down too many paths here. I better contain myself. So, by the way, on the app, the New Beginnings Lutheran Church app, when you open it up to the home segment on the top left, you're going to see core training, and you can catch this video later on when it's no longer in your chat room string. And you can look at all the past videos that I've released to catch up, because they're all connected to some degree. Just like every verse of the Bible flows one to the other, these videos are building upon each other so that hopefully we can get back to basics, build our core strength in faith, and then keep growing beyond that. So back to the will of God. Who wants to know the will of God? I do. Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? What's God's career choice for my life? Do I go to this college or to that college? These questions about God's will for our day-to-day lives, these little detailed questions where we'd love to have a crystal ball, they are what we love to focus on. But let me tell you, if we took all the unanswered questions about God's will for our lives and put them into a box, it would probably be about this big. When we compare those unknown questions about God's will with what we do know about His will, and that would be in a box relatively larger than what we don't know. Do you hear what I'm saying? What we do know from God far outweighs what we do not know. And we've been talking about God's will for our lives in this chat room series every single time I release a new video. Those expressed plans God has for your life and for my life, well, they're on the 2 tablets. Not just those. They're in the entire book, of course, of the Bible. There's a lot of will from God expressed to you and me here. Some details seem to be lacking, but if you focus on what you do know, all the things that you don't know will play out just fine. One of the wills that God has clearly expressed to us that we find difficult to apply is the 4th commandment. That's where we are in our lesson series. We've gone through the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd commandments. Go check out the past videos. But as we talk about the 4th commandment, I got to ask you, what is it? What is the 4th commandment? Come on now, it's in Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, where we're basically told some very challenging words. Honor your father and your mother. Yeah, honor your mom and dad. That is the expressed will of God for your life. Now wait a minute, that's not fair. That's just for the kids. What about the grown-ups? Hello? If you are alive, you have a mom and you have a dad, and you're called to honor them. By the way, there's no clause or qualification for whether or not we should honor them. We tend to think that way. We think it says, honor your father and honor your mother when they are deserving of that honor, when they are not being contradictory parents who say, do as I say and not as I do. We tend to think that we should honor our parents when they're on their best behavior. It doesn't have that qualification in here. Go look up Exodus 20, verse 12. Honor your father and your mother. That's what it says. Not depending upon their performance. Now, in today's age, I have to give a quick footnote. If there is harm taking place in a household, abuse, things of that sort, this is not giving license to such behavior. You're to seek help, to tell someone who can get you that help. Don't let assault or injury or abuse go on. You can honor your parents even by getting to a safe place. Fortunately, I hope that's a minority of people in our day and age. The majority of us have moms and dads who have flaws, but they're doing the best they can to love and raise us the way they know. And whether they're doing it well or not so well, we're called to honor them. And we have to ask the question, what does it mean to honor our mother and father? Well, in our faith tribe, we have an explanation that we've rehearsed for centuries. We explain the commandment in this way. It means to fear and love God so that we do not despise or anger our parents and other authorities, but honor them, love and cherish them, serve and obey them. I may have flipped some of those words around, but all the main components made it. Those complementary verbs help us spell out what it means to honor our parents. To love them, serve them, cherish them, obey them. Those are the ways we honor our mother and our father without despising or angering them. By the way, did you catch something else in this? It's not just honor your father and your mother. We also explain it to mean and other authorities, as in government authorities, as in church authorities. Wherever you are in a position where there is someone, the head of that organization, that is your boss or your employer, your teacher and your principal. These authorities are part of the fourth commandment. And as I applied it to parents, sometimes you don't feel like they deserve honor, love, obedience, to be cherished, but we're called to do so. And just because I say so, I don't want you to swallow that hook, line, and sinker. You're like, well, it says in the fourth commandment to honor your father and your mother. How can you extrapolate governing authorities? Well, so that you can refer to the book itself, I'm going to give you a verse. Romans chapter 13. It begins at verse 1, but it goes on for quite a while. I'm just going to read the opening section where it says, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment." So I wanted to make sure you have something to stand on besides just what Pastor Joe says. Honoring your father and your mother and other authorities includes every realm of our lives. It's the clear will of God. We raised our hands and said, I want to know God's will for my life. Here it is. When we fulfill the fourth commandment, or all of them really, that are expressed to us clearly in the scriptures, the areas of life that we don't know will work themselves out appropriately. But we tend to like to fixate or focus on the things we don't know to the neglect of what we do. And I'm telling you folks, if we do what God says to do, we won't have to worry about the don'ts, and we won't have to worry about the don't knows. Now, as I talk about honoring through loving and cherishing, serving and obeying government authorities, school authorities, work authorities, as mom and dad, I want to add one more word of definition for what it means to honor, and that is to forgive. Yeah, to forgive those in authority, even as we seek to be forgiven. Because the only thing that helps us not blow to pieces as families or society is recognizing that we are all people in process and we need grace. And so, speaking specifically of your household, I'd like to give you a practice that we did in my home that has helped us significantly, and it is the namesake process of our church. It's called New Beginnings. That basically, Lamentations 3:22 and 23 say it's the mercy and love of God that keeps us from being consumed by our dishonoring ways, by our sinful ways, through our failures. But for the Lord's great mercy, we would be undone. But behold, his mercies are new to us, or begin anew, new beginnings, every morning. Every day we have grace. And so I encourage you that even though we seek to honor each other, we will fail. Even though we seek to do the best we can to and for one another, we will fall short at times. And we need to be able to express forgiveness. That's part of the honor equation here. In my home, it had 3 steps. Whenever someone failed the other, we would ask the question, do you want new beginnings? Now, New Beginnings would kick off a 3-part series. Number 1, we'd say we were sorry for where we had failed. It didn't help just to say, I'm sorry, because sometimes we might be apologizing for something the other person didn't feel offended by. You know, my favorite story is when one of my boys and the other were squealing with anger and rage and pain, and I ran in there, and they were in a conflict to the death. And I said, you guys want to have new beginnings? And they both wanted to get on with the good stuff of the day, you know, to play and have fun. And so they're like, yeah. And I said, okay, what do you do? And so one brother says to the other, I'm sorry for hitting you with the wiffle ball bat. And the little brother says, that's not why I'm mad. I'm mad because you wouldn't play Legos with me. And, you know, then the big brother says, well, I'm mad because you were taking the Legos away. And basically, by saying what you're specifically sorry for, you clarify where the offense might lie. And then you can truly get forgiveness for where the offense was. So, I'm sorry for not playing Legos with you. And then you can't just say, oh, that's okay. We will say the words, I forgive you. When I say I'm sorry for something, I regret it. And I hope you'll show me forgiveness or mercy, just like God does every single day. And after we would say, I'm sorry and I forgive you, then we would culminate with a new beginnings hug. We would hug until we felt like it, basically, because sometimes it took a while for the feelings to go away. But I would like to encourage you to honor those in authority, to honor your mother and father, and that includes forgiving them. That includes getting new beginnings with each other, just as God has done for us. Talk amongst yourselves.